Hey guys, and welcome to a new video. Yesterday evening was the announcement, the reveal of the 324 Necropolis League. We also got the patch notes and stuff like that. And there is a lot to cover. Like, a lot. Like, typically I do like this live reaction of the teaser, like the announcement and stuff. But this video is like an hour long or something, because there is so many new things, and I don't even know how to cover each and everything, and I don't think I want to make like one single video on that, because obviously it's just way too much, right? But today I want to make a quick video talking about one specific thing that a lot of people might have seen, and this is the Archmage support gem. And this basically got changed. It usually has like supported skills gain added lightning damage equal to 75% of your mana cost. This is like an important thing, the mana cost. If you can even spend it. And supported skills have base mana cost equal to 5% of unreserved mana. So that is basically the old Archmage, right? So what it basically means, you put it in and you spend, or you get a more mana multiplier, and the more mana your skill costs, the more damage you get, right? The new version now has, and they gain added lightning damage equal to 10% of unreserved mana, so it doesn't require you to spend the mana anymore, which is huge. And like also scaling up to 90%, so probably like 25 or so if you like get this like 26, 27 level or something. And it also has support skills of added mana cost of 5% of unreserved mana. So that is like quite a big change. What does that basically mean? So back in Crucible League, I think I played, in my opinion, one of the most enjoyable mana stacking builds for me. I know there is like a lot of like Hierophants and Mana Bond and Mjolnir and all kind of things, you know, where they are like 30,000 mana or something like that, and using Indigon. And most mana stacking builds on a high level using Indigon. So with this change, Indigon is pretty much dead, right? Because honestly, Indigon is the way that you spend mana. The more mana you spend, the more spell damage you get, up to like 2000%. So you have like this pre-ramping time until you cannot even spend any mana anymore because your skill's getting so expensive. But since the Archmage support does no longer like add the mana cost, or you can drive it up to crazy numbers, it is kind of like rigged in that case. You can still use like Arcane Cloak and stuff, but I never liked Indigon anyways, because it's like a clunky playstyle. You know, there's pre-ramping, and then you need to wait until the Indigon buff fades off so you can actually cast things again. In my opinion, super clunky, but very powerful, right? So in this version over here that I played in Crucible League, I had a classic Scion with self-cast arc setup, and this had like over 100,000 EHP. I was face tanking almost every Uber boss, even the Cyrus, the Uber Cyrus Meteor with active Arcane Cloak. So it is very, very enjoyable. But every build has like ups and downs, and the problem with this build was to sustain the mana cost. So the way I played it was a two-way setup. I used Arc for mapping, and I used Stonebrand to actually kill Uber bosses and stuff. The reason for that is, if you permanently cast Arc, you're gonna run out of mana. It is what it is. And if we check the PoE, for example, just to give it like an oversight. So as I said, in the old version, the more mana you spend, the more damage you get, right? So what I did here is taking, for example, reduced mana cost of skills. And you might think, like, why would you use reduced mana cost of skills if you just said the more mana it costs, the more damage you deal? The problem is the sustaining of that. So if I say I have a cast rate of 7 casts per second with an average cost of like 1800 mana, you can do the math on how much mana I'm spending per second. Probably it's like, I don't know, like 12,000 or something, right? And my mana regen was about 3,000 per second. So you have a lot of like masteries and forms and like Watcher's Eye modifiers and recoup and things like that, where you can get mana back. But eventually, at some point, when you just hold down Arc, you're gonna run out of mana, you know? So to make it sustainable, or more sustainable, I even decided to go with reduced mana cost, reducing my damage, but still having like this added quality that I can say, hey, you know, I want to reach a point where I can like safely cast like Arc like 20 times in a row without running dry, and then just wait for mana to regen back up, because there is no spell mana leech, right? So with the new version, you're not gonna have this added mana cost anymore. So if we would do the math real quick, right? I mean, I'm gonna just quickly, I think I actually, wait a second, give me Second, I posted this to a friend yesterday, what I made here. So, this basically. What that means, this is from my stacker over here. It has 7,706 mana. So, the old Archmage had a mana cost of 1,828 and gave me, based on that 75%, like a 1,300 added spell lightning damage. With the new version, though, the arc cost is down to like 380 and gives me like a 1,400 added damage. So, as I said, the mana cost multiplier is gone, but it's now scaling off your maximum mana. So this mana cost is basically, yeah, based on like the mana pool. I don't know if the math is like 100% correct, but it's just about to visualize what the changes are. So, and this is like a big chunk of mana that I don't have to spend while even getting more damage out of it. And what does that mean? Basically, almost every single mana build was forced to go into certain items, like, for example, an Ethere's Foible, or the Cloak of Defiance, or any, like, these basic mana items that almost everybody used just to get some mana back, you know? For example, the Cloak of Defiance, if I pull it up real quick somewhere here. Cloak of Defiance, PoE. So, this is like a very strong item. It gives you Mind of a Matter, it gives you flat mana, it's also very nice. But the main thing why people are using Cloak of Defiance is this one over here. The regen 1% of mana per second. It is very, very, very hard to get a good amount of base mana regen. It is easy to get increased mana regen, but if your base mana regen kind of sucks, you're still gonna have issues there, right? Same with like the Ethere's Foible, tons of regen, tons of regen. The thing though is, if I know that my skills are now costing like, I don't know, like 10% or 20% of what it actually used to be, that means I don't have to go out and go full out on mana regen. And that would open up probably certain gear slots as well as suffixes for maybe crit multi, because my version was just a, what do you say, ally overload build, so non-crit build, right? Just to have like this added quality that I can add like lots of mana regen to be able to maybe sustain it, which I wasn't even able to, right? But it just comes down to the fact that now again, like, I just stack flat mana and the mana regen won't be an issue anymore because the skills cost a lot less, but we still get even more damage out of it, which is gonna be very, very powerful. There is another thing that might be very, very sick in that combination, and this is the use case of Mjolnir. So what Mjolnir says is socketed lightning skills have no cost if triggered, which doesn't work with Archmage, with the old Archmage that is, right? Because Archmage, the old one, the more you spend, it's about mana spending, the more you spend, the more damage you get. So if your skill doesn't spend anything, you don't get any bonus damage. So the new Archmage just says you're getting flat lightning damage based off your maximum mana. It doesn't say you have to spend it anymore. And on top of that, you get base mana cost on your skill, which is fine. And with the Mjolnir, you don't even have to spend that. But that opens up the use case of any Archmage Mjolnir build now, which wasn't really a thing before, which I think is pretty great. And this could be Mjolnir Arc, I don't know, like maybe Static Strike of Ball Lightning, or Mjolnir Spark, or I don't know, like many things that you could now play with the use case of Mjolnir. But there is another item that I think is pretty cool, and they released that kind of yesterday after the live stream, and this is the Ravenous Passion, which basically changes the way rage works. It's usually for attack speed and movement speed and attack damage, and now you're basically gaining spell damage, you gain cast speed, and you gain rage after spending 200 mana. So, in theory, like, if this works the way, if there is no internal cooldown and whatnot, I gain 15 rage after spending a total of 200 mana. So, if I take my old PUB and I say, hey, let's say the mana cost goes down to, like, 200 or something, right? So, one cast equals 15 rage. But if I'm casting, like, 7 times a second, what is that? Like, 100 rage per second? Which kind of allows me to have, like, permanent Berserk uptime, because I don't know a build that has so much rage regen per second, right? And no, Berserk will not change at all. It's still gonna be like more attack speed and stuff like that, which is not really good, but you still get the benefit of the more movement speed and the less damage taken, which is quite a lot of like overall layers of defense, right? So in theory, if I say I'm playing like an Arc mana stacking Scion the way I did back in the days, and I don't have to worry about the regen nodes, because there is a lot of nodes that I took just for mana regen. So if I can skip all of that, turn it into a crit version, maybe power charges or something, with crit multi, it's gonna have a lot more damage. It's gonna feel better because I will probably not run out of mana. It's like, need to see how that's gonna work out. Then playing with a helm and have like 100% berserk uptime for all the movement speed, and now with the helm, the cast speed, which also let me think like, hey, what about an Arc or any spellcaster berserk or Juggernaut, because they have Rite of Ruin, which triples the rage effects. So, you know, instead of increased attack damage, attack speed, and movement speed, you now get spell damage, cast speed, and movement speed. So with Rite of Ruin, it might be actually quite fun to play, but I think it sacrifices too much in that regard, just because if you're starting as a Marauder and you want to do like a spellcaster or something like that, you know, all the good stuff is on the top side of the tree, and on the bottom it's more like attack based and stuff, so you have to spend a lot of travel points to get somewhere, and I don't know if the triple rage effect is actually then worth it in that regard, right? But since Indigon is kind of off the table, we open up the helm slot for example, the Ravenous Passion, for the perma berserk and insane cast speed and spell damage and stuff. I think it's gonna be very, very fun in that regard. It's gonna be, can't wait to get myself into that kind of like portion where I'm like theory crafting something with these use cases. And don't get me wrong, Archmage is now not overpowered by any means, right? Because it's like, Archmage was always like kind of terrible since they first initially nuked it when it came out and everybody played it, and now nobody plays it anymore besides me and maybe like 2 or 3 other people. But I just enjoy the mana playstyle, the Mind of a Matter agnostic kind of like playstyle, and I come back to mana builds very, very often. And now thinking about that, Archmage got changed in the case that you don't run into these mana issues anymore, which was the main reason why I decided at some point I want to try out Arc Ignite, for example, just because I don't have to use that much mana. The only problem, and the one thing that I don't like about this is it can no longer support brand or orb skills. You know, this is something I don't understand why they did that, because, you know, Archmage Stonebrand was always like something I played quite a bunch of times in the past couple of years as Raider, as Scion, as all kinds of things, because I just love the brand playstyle and Archmage setup with Mind of a Matter, agnostic and stuff like that. I just don't understand why you cannot do this anymore. This, this is kind of sad. But there's other cool skills, like Arc, for example, or Ball Lightning, or Lightning Conduit or anything. And now combining that with like Mjolnir, maybe a Mjolnir custom crit, or cast while channeling, Crackling Lance, or Heaven's Fury, Lightning Conduit or something. I don't know. It's gonna be fun to tackle around with that. And that basically means that I'm most likely going to start some mana stacking build as my league starter, but I need to POB out a lot of things and need to see how far we can go with that. Alright guys, thanks for tuning in, thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.